Welcome students for online classes. Today we'll continue with the chapter 3 under statistics, that is organization of data. In the earlier session we studied about the classification of data and the variables, and in today's session we'll study about the frequency distribution. So, the frequency distribution means the distribution of observation over the several values is called as frequency distribution. So, the meaning of observation in this context is not looking through it. In spite of this, the observation meaning here is the data. Okay, so over the several values, in the sense here the several values means these the raw data which you can see. The raw data, what is raw data? The data which is not been classified. So how will be the classified data? So this is a basic picture where how the classification of data will be. So this is the raw data where you need to classify this data into this particular format. So these are the several values which you need to distribute or which you need to classify based on their particular observation. Okay, so whatever the data you contribute or whatever data you want to classify, you will be doing with the help of this frequency distribution. It is a method, that is the frequency distribution is a method of classifying the raw data of a quantitative data. What did we study under quantitative data? Quantitative data is measured only in numbers. So these are some of the quantitative data which we'll get, and we can even call these data as the the raw data which should be classified into this particular format. So to know about this particular format, we need to know some of the concepts or steps relating to the frequency distribution for the continuous series. What did we study under continuous series? That it is a fraction of numbers, it is the integer which is continuous in number, which is not the exact number where the numbers will be continuous. See, for example, in this class you will see in this column that there is continuous of number 10, 10, 20, 20, 30, 30. So these are the continuous variables which we need to find out with the help of this raw data. So how will we find out these particular format with the help of raw data? So there are some of the steps which we need to follow. First one is about the class. So, a group of data, what is called as class? A class is known as a group of data, that is, with the highest and the lowest value is called as class. Say, for example, I have taken an example of this, maybe 10 to 20 or 0 to 10 or 10 to 20 or 20 to 30. So, this individual 10 to 20 is called as a class. Okay. So, for example, when I come to this particular example, so how many classes are there? So there are 10 classes under this particular thing. So 0 to 10 is called as one class, 10 to 20 is called as one class, 20 to 30, these 10 numbers are called as a group of data which can be classified further under all these circumstances. Okay, so what do we do with the help of this raw data? We do the class. So how will we do the class? First and foremost thing, you need to, under this raw data, you need to find out the lowest number and the highest number. So basically, first when you see there are 100 raw data in this particular structure, so whenever you see these kinds of questions, you need to first find out which is the lowest number and which is the highest number. Only then you can find out the classes, you can assume the classes. For example, if there is no 100 here, only there is a limit of 50, so the lowest number is 0 and the highest number will be 50. So at this point of time, what will you do? You should stop your circumstances, or you should stop your level to 40 to 50. If you even extend from 50 to 100, what will happen? The frequency level will be 0. What is frequency? I'll tell you in the next point. So at this point of time, what is class? How will you find out this class? Basically, you need to go to raw data. First thing, you need to check what is the lowest number and which is the highest number. Only then you can assume the classes. And while assumption of classes, it is not necessary that however I have given, you need to take. Maybe like I have given 10 to 20, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. You can even take 0 to 5, 10 to sorry, 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, even in the 5 space. But what is very much important here, the the equal distribution in between. What is the equal distribution here? The number 10. So there should be equal distribution with the every classes. That is very much important under class. Okay, this is the first and foremost step which you need to do. After the first step, I will go to the next thing, that is frequency. So what is frequency? The number of times the observation occurs in the raw data is called as frequency. I have given a small example. So I have taken some of the values here. Okay, so in some of these values, some of the values are repeated. Say for example 2 is repeated 4 times, and 5 is repeated 2 times, and 8 is repeated 2 times. So what is the frequency? What is the meaning of frequency here? I will go to the description. The number of times the observation occurs in the raw data is called as frequency. Here, how will you write the frequency? So here, as there are only limited number in the class, I have taken only 2 gap. There is a gap of 2. So what did I tell in the earlier example? I had taken 10 gap. So 0 to 10, 10 to 20. Here I have taken only 2 gap in between all the observations, all the classes. So at this point of time, the value ranging from 0 to 2, how many values are there? Say 1, 2, 3 and 4. So what does frequency mean? A raw data which repeats many times, that is known as frequency. So the answer is 4. So you might think that only 2 is there. Then what about the other numbers? So now I'll go to 4 to 6. So what I have made here is that, as you see that 0 to 2, here 2 is present. In the next one also 2 is present with 4. So what I have made, you need to include 2 to one section and you need to exclude the 2 from another section. So that is known as inclusive method, which we will study later. But now what is very much important, if you take into consideration 2 in one section, it is not important that you need to take 2 into consideration with the next number. Why? Because when you calculate the frequency, when you include 2 here also, and when there is 2 here, you will even include 2 here. So what will happen? The frequency, there will be excess frequency. We need only how many raw data are there, only so many frequencies we need. For example, I will count for you: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So when I count all these, what will happen? Even I will get the same answer. 4 plus 1 plus 3 plus 2 is 10. So this is the particular frequency. So how many raw data are there? The so many frequencies should we get. That is about the frequency. Frequency, I repeat the thing, the number of times the observation, here observation means data, the data occurs in the raw data, that is called frequency. So now the next thing, what is known as frequency class? The word frequency class mean the number of observation corresponding to a particular class is known as frequency class. So what did we study? The number of observation which is corresponding to the frequency class. Here the corresponding to 0 to 2, which is the frequency 4. So each and every thing here, 0 to 2 and 4 is one class, 2 to 4 to 1 is one class. So these things are known as one class. This is known as class, this is known as frequency class. When you take into consideration the whole thing, this is known as frequency. Okay, so this is about frequency. Now the next thing is about class interval. So the meaning is the difference between upper class limit and lower class limit is called as class interval. So here upper class limit can be told as the largest value and the lower class limit can be told as the smallest value. So the formula for this is I is equal to L minus S divided by K. So here I means I represents class interval. Okay, so where L represents largest value, S represents the smallest value, and K represents the difference between each class. So what is the difference between each class? I have taken example of these. So I have taken this as an example. So when I take this into consideration, I take first one 0 to 10 into consideration. So 10 minus 0 is equal to 10. Or when I take any number into consideration, the value or the end answer should be same. So here you cannot take like 0 to 10, in the next time you cannot take 10 to 15. Why? Because the difference here you will get only 5, but the difference here you will get will be 10. So there should not be two answers, you should get only one answer at a time. Okay, so that is known as k, the difference between each class. Okay, so now when I substitute with the help of this thing, okay, what is the largest value here? The largest value is 40. And what is, how much is the smallest value? The smallest value is 0. So what was k? K is the difference between each class. So what is the difference between each class? That is 10. So once you substitute all these things, you will get an answer of 4. So this is about class interval. Next thing, the fourth one is about class limit. What does the word class limit mean? Two ends of a class is called as class limit. First, what is class? This particular single thing, once I go to the example, I will show you. This individual thing is known as class. So what does the word class limit mean? The class limit means it is the end, two ends of the class. So we have one end and two ends. So here 0 is one end and 10 is one end. So which are the two? The two ends are called as the upper limit and the lower limit. So we need to know which is the upper limit and the lower limit. So when we studied here under class interval, what did we study? Upper limit is the largest number and the lower limit is the smallest number. In the same way, here upper limit is 10 as it is the largest number. Sorry, I have left 10 to write. So 10 is the upper limit and 0 is the lower number. So 0 is known as the lower limit. So class limit means these are the two ends of the classes, that is upper limit and the lower limit. In the same way, if I take into consideration 10 to 20, which is the lower limit? 10 is the lower limit and 20 is the lower limit. So for each and every class, for example, when I come to this example, for each and every class you will be having a upper limit and lower limit. For example, when I take into consideration 60 to 70, which is the lower limit? 60 is the lower limit and 70 is the upper limit. So this was about class limit. Now the next thing we'll study about the mid value. The next concept or the next step we need to find out while finding out the frequency distribution is mid value. The middle value of the class is called as mid value. So what is class? So when I come to this example, this particular individual thing is known as class. 0 to 10 is one class, 70 to 80 is one class, 90 to 100 is another class. So these are the different classes. So how will you find out the mid value? Okay, so the formula to calculate the mid value or the middle value of one each and every classes is upper class limit plus the lower class limit divided by 2. Here the number 2 is constant for everything. Say for example, here I have taken the example of 0 to 10. So the mid value, what is the formula? Upper limit. How much is the upper limit? 10 is the upper limit. So I have taken 10. Next is plus. Sorry, please note with the sign. So the sign is plus. So plus 0. So what does 10? What is 0 here? 0 is the lower limit of the class. Okay, so I take into consideration lower limit as 0 and after that I divide by 2. Why? Because we need to find out the mid value. So what is the answer? 10 minus or plus 0 will be always 10 divided by 2. The answer will be 5. In the same way, I will give you another example of 10 and 20, 10 to 20. So what happens at this point of time? So what is the first thing? Which is the upper limit here? 20 is the upper limit. 20 plus 10 is how much? 30. 30 divided by 2, which is a constant every time. So the answer is 25. So this is the mid value. So you find mid value with the help of this formula. Please note with the sign. This is plus sign, not the minus sign. Sorry for this. Okay, the next thing what we need to find out is the class range. Class range in the sense, what is class? Class is for each and everything. What is range? The difference between largest and smallest value of a variable is called as range. So I will go to the raw data now. So what did we study? Which is the largest value here? 0 is the largest value. And which is, which is the smallest value here? 0 is the smallest value. And which is the largest value? 100 is the largest value. So what does the word range mean? The difference between the largest value and the smallest value is known as range. So when I come to the example, I have taken r is equal to L minus S, largest value minus the smallest value. Example, I have taken all these. So which is the largest value here? 40 is the largest value. Which is the lowest value? 10 is the lowest value. So our range is equal to 40 minus 10, which is equal to 30. So the range of this particular example is 30. Okay, students. Now the next and the last step under frequency distribution is cumulative frequency. The word cumulative means, what does it mean? It means the summing up or the total of something. So here what is the total? The sum or the total of the frequencies is known as cumulative frequency. So what is cumulative frequency? The sum or the total of all these frequency, that is known as cumulative frequency. So how will we find out this cumulative frequency? So you might think you will add all these 3 plus 2 plus 4 plus 1 and you write it as 10. So this is not as total of the frequency. That will be called only the total of the frequency. We will not call that as a cumulative frequency. But in spite of that, what will we do? We check the total of each and every class. So how will we do? As this is the first point, 0 to 10, the frequency is 3, so we directly write 3. So but when I come to the next class, we need to combine 2. Why need to combine 2? Because it is a sum total. We need the total of frequency from 0 to 20. We only don't need the frequency of 10 to 20. We know the frequency of 10 to 20, that is 2. But we need the frequency of total, that is from 0 to 20, which will be totaled as 3 plus 2, which is 5. Okay, in the same way, when I come to the third one, I need the sum total of first 3, that is from 0 to 30. What will be the total of 0 to 30? That is the first 3 values, which will be of 9. In the same way, you start calculating everything. You start adding. Maybe 0 to 20, the answer will be 5. 0 to 30, the answer will be 9. In the same way, 0 to 40, when you add up all these things, you will get an answer of 10. So this is known as cumulative frequency. These are some of the steps which you need to find out while the classification of data with the help of what? With the help of raw data. So now I have given you a problem. Prepare a frequency distribution. So here there are 100 raw data. Okay, so if you count, there are 100 number of raw data. So with the help of this question, only so much is the question. With the help of so much question, you need to find the solution. So this is the solution. So what first we will go according to the steps. First, what did we study? We studied class. So what is class? Class is a group of variable. So how will we find out group of variable? First, we need to check what is the smallest value, and later on we should check what is the largest value. Only then we can predict how our class can be. Here I have taken a difference of 10 with the every class. So for you, it is not important that you need to take only 10 in difference. You can even take 5 in difference. You can even take 20 in difference. So how much reduction in the number will be, the managing of all these numbers will be easy for you. So first, once you make the class, later on all these things will be easier for you. First and foremost, you need to make the class. So you can even do 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15. But the thing, what is the main thing? It should be a continuous variable. It should be 0 to 10 and 10 to 20. It should not be like 0 to 10 and later on you skip to 40 to 50. It should be in a continuous way. Okay, so what is the lowest value? It is 0 and the highest value is 100. When I come back, what is the lowest value is 0, highest value is 100. These things should be included in your class. So once I finish the class, I need to find out the frequency. Now how will I find the frequency? What did we study under frequency? Frequency are the number of observation which we see. Now I will come to this particular chart. So what I have made, say for example, in this line also I have 10, in this class I have 10, and even in this class I have 10. So for according to my knowledge, what I have done is that I have taken into consideration the value of 10 to the next value. In the same way, I take into consideration the value of 20 to the next line. In the same way, I take the value of 30 to the next class. Why am I doing this? Because there should be no clash, or there should be no extra frequency. If we take into consideration 10 here also, 10 here also, our frequency will increase, so which is very much difficult for us to manage. So if there are only 100 observation, the total of the frequency should also be 100, so it shouldn't come excess, or it shouldn't come down of 100. So taking into consideration all these things is very much important. So here you should either take into consideration the upper limit in the first class, or you need to take into consideration the lower limit for the second class. This is very much important. After this, what you need to do, how will you find out the frequency? I will go to the raw data table. Here you need to check the values. How will you check the values? You need to check from 0 to 9 how many values are there. If you have only one value, as per I know, only one value is there, which is given in the description for you. Only one value is there, so the frequency is only one. But when I come to 0 to 20, but here in 0 to 20, how many numbers will I take into consideration? Only 10 to 19. 20 will be considered in the next class. This is very much important, students. So when I take into consideration 10 to 19, you need to check all these numbers. All these numbers in the sense, this will be not given in the solution, sorry, in the problem. You need to find out where is 10. 10 is here. After the 10, where is another number? 17 is here, 14 is here. So you need to find out the things. After finding out, after calculating, you need to have a proper number so that you write in the frequency. After calculating for all this process, what did we do? We calculated only for 90 was calculated in the last thing. But here after the 100 major point, what happens? There is no other classes, so because of that, the largest value will be included in the last class. Okay, please keep this in mind. The first number, that is the smallest number, and the largest number will always be included in the first line and in the last class. So these things so these are for your description or for your reference to check from this raw data and to write the frequency. And one more thing, when you think that your answer is right, only when your frequencies will match the number of observation. So I have 100 number of observation. If I total this frequency, I need to get only 100, not excess to 100, not less than 100. So I shouldn't get more or less, I should get exact frequency of 100. So by this we will find out the frequency. The next thing is to find the lower limit and the upper limit. So how will we find lower limit and upper limit? These are the two classes. The two classes where I had told you the lower number of the class is known as lower limit, and the higher number of the class is known as upper limit. In the same way, when I take into consideration 70 to 80, 70 is the lower limit, 80 is the upper limit, because 70 is the lower number, 80 is the higher number. So this is about lower limit and upper limit. Next thing is about midpoint. So what is midpoint? Finding out the middle value. What is the formula? Upper limit plus lower limit divided by 2. So what will I do? For your reference, you even have the values here, the upper limit and lower limit. You can even see this class for your reference, whichever makes you easier, you can see that. Okay, so upper limit, how much is upper limit value? 10 plus how much lower limit value? 0 divided by 2, the answer will be 5. In the same way, I take into consideration this one. How much is the upper limit? 70. 70 plus 60 is 42. 420. 420 divided by 2 is 65. So this is the answer for midpoint, which you need to do for each and everything. So because I have taken 10 to 20, the answer is in a whole number. So when I take 10 to 15, I will get a decimal number. So that is also not a problem. If I take into consideration 10 to 15, my answer will be 12.5. So that is also not a problem. So there is no problem in that, just because we need the classification. So because of that, we do this. And lastly, we find out the cumulative frequency. What is cumulative frequency? The summing up of the frequency. So first we will be writing the same number, because before to this there is no summing up of the frequency. After this, what do? We sum up 0 to 20. 0 to 20 is 8 plus 1 is 9. Next one, we sum up from 0 to 30. 0 to 30 is 6 plus 8 plus 1, which is 15. In the same way, we next one is about 0 to 40. We take into consideration cumulative for all these. So which are the frequency? Frequency is 7 plus 6 plus 8 plus 1, which is 22. So in the same way, we do this for all the things. So the end answer will also be 100, which we calculated during the frequency. So the end answer for cumulative frequency will also be 100. So this is the frequency table or the frequency distribution which you need to find out for the raw data. So this will be the question and this will be the solution. Okay, students. So if you have any doubts regarding the frequency distribution, feel free to call me or text me. Okay. So the assignment part, what is frequency distribution? Explain the steps, concepts of frequency distribution for continuous series. Prepare a frequency distribution. So what you need to do, you need to find out all these things. Okay. So here there are 70 variables or 70 raw data. So you need to find out with the help of all these things. Thank you, students.